Welcome to Detours, Understanding Acquired Brain Injury. And today I want to talk to you about neurofatigue. Um, what exactly is it? Um, the thing is that this neurofatigue is considered by most patients with mild, moderate, and severe brain injury as probably one of the most disabling symptoms of traumatic brain injury. Now, we also see it with patients who don't just have trauma, but other forms of brain injury as well, and even other invisible diseases, those that affect the nervous system in general. The thing is, it's really hard to define what fatigue is exactly. It's kind of a slippery thing, and it's defined by different medical societies, different medical organizations, and psychiatric, psychological, in different ways. But generally, it's that it's not exactly tired, but a depletion of energy overall. And so there have been a number of attempts to study it, and they've come to differing conclusions and different explanations for it too. Your patients will describe it as just not having the energy to get up and go, not having the ability to think anymore. They'll describe their brains as mush, or they'll describe themselves as not having the will. And it's not the same thing as adynamia, which I had mentioned in another video, in the metacognitive and executive dysfunctions. This is more about a general, total lack of energy. And the problem is that it affects so many people with brain injury, and it affects them in every aspect of life. There's physical fatigue, there's emotional fatigue, there is cognitive neurofatigue. And the thing is, it's really, there's no outright treatment for it. Psychostimulants can help, but they really aren't a treatment per se. The best way of handling or addressing it is with careful scheduling, planning ahead, knowing when you have your most energy in the day, writing down, journaling when you're at your peak, finding different times to do different things, and making sure that you know, does my cognitive peak differ from my physical peak? Do I have more energy to do stuff physically in the evening versus my mental energy? Maybe my mental energy is high at like 7 a.m. to 9 or 10. My physical energy is higher from like 3 in the afternoon till 6. And so making sure that I do different things at those times. Now, those of you familiar with the spoon theory or Mark's mechanical pencil theory, this really is talking about this talks about fatigue, about neurofatigue. There are a lot of different explanations as to why this is. Some theories believe that this is due to a problem with white matter tracks being damaged, and as new connections are made, as neuroplasticity engages and pathways have to be routed around damaged areas, energy has to be moved around a much longer pathway to solve damage, to make the connection. So just like sending electricity over a much longer distance will make it less efficient. So there's less energy available to do thinking because it's wasted being sent from one area of the brain to the other. And white matter tracks do indeed do this. They do send energy for thinking and other things like that. Also, there are fewer connections. So again, less efficiency. So our brains are less efficient after traumatic brain injury. Problems with sleeping. We don't sleep as efficiently as we used to before our brain injuries. That's also connected. The NREM state for sleep, when we do not dream, appears to be connected to the disposing of waste, metabolic waste in the cells. We don't seem to do that as well as we used to. So clearly that also is connected in some way. Again, the studies on that are new, but removal of metabolic waste. So again, the neurons are less efficient at operating, and so that contributes to fatigue. Glutamate, which is an excitatory neurotransmitter, is believed to be more depleted. There are less neurons that provide this excitatory neurotransmission, and so if there's less glutamate for excitation, obviously less of this excitatory neurotransmitter means less cortical excitation. Other theories propose that we use glucose less efficiently. That's converted to ATP, which is the actual fuel that that all cells run on, adenosine triphosphate. And there's a whole complex chain. I'm not going to get into that, but we maybe use it less efficiently. Neuroinflammation, another proposal that we don't, that our brains still have a lot of inflammatory factors, and that the neurons are busy trying to fight inflammation and don't have the resources to fire or inhibit firing as they should, and so our brains, again, less efficient. So overall, it's kind of like tanking a car that got, say, 30 miles to the gallon, or 60 kilometers to the gallon, to those of you who are watching from overseas. I know there are some, down to, say, one that gets, 10 miles to the gallon, or 15 kilometers to the liter, whatever. Sorry, my metrics isn't as great as it used to be. Anyway, so it's about efficiency. And so our brains are less efficient, meaning that we need more frequent rest. We need to take breaks. We need to be good to ourselves. We need to make sure we eat better, healthier foods. We need to make sure that we get the sleep we need. See the doc. Make sure that we see our general physician to make sure there aren't other factors that are contributing. Because if we're not sleeping right, that impacts neurofatigue. Scheduling. We need to make sure that we schedule things that are mentally good. You cannot just be going between work or doctor's appointments or whatever and then home right to bed. That kind of feeds on itself. Staying in bed all the time, bad, very bad, because the rest of your body becomes less efficient too. The temptation is strong. Believe me, I know, but that is very destructive in the long run, and it affects your aerobic versus anaerobic efficiency, and it affects the way your cells operate. So we want to encourage, if possible, getting outside, getting fresh air, exercising, improving your aerobic capacity. So exercise, very good. Socialization. This one's difficult. A lot of us have trouble with overstimulation, and overstimulation can trigger neurofatigue. Too much noise, too much sound, too much emotional stimulation can trigger neurofatigue. But the thing is, not enough, just like laying around in bed all day, can also have an adverse impact on neural health and psychiatric and psychological health. And it can make it worse. So it is important to engage with family, friends, other people in your life. And failure to do so also can lead to neural degeneration and puts you at increased risk for neurodegenerative diseases too. And it's the same thing with cognitive. Not exercising your brain enough can also cause a degradation of cognitive skills over time. People ask, hey, do I seem to be losing some of my mental skills? And so the question I have is, are you actually using them? Are you engaged in like brain games? Are you conversing with people? Are you thinking? Are you pushing yourself? Not too hard to the point where you fatigue yourself, but are you on that edge? Are you trying to regularly push yourself? And it's the same thing with emotional and social and physical. Are you trying to push yourself right to the edge without going over? And that requires discipline, tracking, notebooks, all that stuff. In order to push your boundary and to strengthen yourself, you need to push those margins and to grow yourself. It's just like any other, muscle, if you will. Use the muscles up here. Same thing, but in a cognitive and neurological sense. You don't want to overpush because then you will fall into that fatigue, but you also don't want to underdo it. You got to strike a balance. And you need to find where those limits are. And then you need to start pushing on them slowly. Everything in brain injury is using what a lot of brain injury docs say about medicine. Go low, go slow, but go. Notice, don't sit on it. You still have to go. And so that is true for these types of techniques, these health techniques, exercise, eating right. There's a reason that these are recommended and have been recommended for 100 plus years by docs. This applies to using your head. Start simple, start small, go from there, but go. All right. That is, neurofatigue. It can be very devastating, very difficult. It can be surprising to the family. And they're like, what's going on here? This has to do with efficiency, with loss of cortical efficiency, a deep brain structure efficiency, the connections, the white matter, gray matter, not as efficient as it used to be. Electrical inefficiency. Like I said, like a car that is no longer efficient. A car with a damaged engine, you put the wrong oil and you put the wrong fuel in, and you're able to save it, but it's just never going to run just quite the same. But there are things you can do for your brain. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please click like and subscribe. Hit that bell icon for more content like this. Please comment below. See you next time.